Hello and welcome to the Guardian Football Weekly, a weekend of decent games that confirmed a lot of what we already know. Arsenal keep getting the job done, City look ominous, and Aston Villa are going to win every game for the rest of time. Also giving us a chance to talk about Morgan Rogers versus Bellingham yet again. Newcastle and Chelsea are inconsistent even in the same game. Is a brace here enough to offset that own goal last week for Nick Woltemade? Brackets, probably not. Then to Spurs, who lose at home again. 9 men and Liverpool still tried to give them something. Xavi Simons with a silly red, but surprised about Romero. He's just not that kind of player. So let's start at St James's Park. Probably the most fun game of the weekend. There are a few to choose from. Newcastle 2, Chelsea 2. 2 for Woltemade. Brilliant free kick for Reece James. That brilliant first touch from João Pedro before he went on and scored. Some controversial refereeing decisions, which will take part of this pod, I imagine. Barry, we were discussing yesterday, do 2 Nick Woltemade goals? I mean, he needed something after the Derby catastrophe, but do they exorcise the demons of last week?
I don't think so. I think the commentator or maybe the co-coms mentioned redemption for Woltemade after his first, and I'm thinking, he's got to do more than that to redeem himself from scoring the only goal against his own team in a Tyne-Wear derby. And he did do more. He scored a second, but crucially, he missed a third, a sitter, which would have, you'd imagine, put the game beyond Chelsea. It was 2-0 at the time. He had another chance, not as easy, that he'd also missed. So I think he has gone some way towards redeeming himself. I don't think the 2 misses are quite enough to cancel out the 2 goals, but he could have put this game beyond Chelsea and didn't. So he has gone some way towards redeeming himself. That goal will haunt him forever on a personal level and for all his time on Tyneside. One imagines he probably meets quite a few Mackems in his day-to-day activities, whether it's going to do his big shop or walking around Tyneside or visiting local tourist hotspots and amenities or whatnot, and he will constantly be reminded of that. But he seems like the kind of guy who will take it on the chin and in time be able to laugh at the good of it. I think this game overall, a draw seems fair. Newcastle will see it as 2 points dropped, another 2 points dropped, because they should have had the game more or less won by half-time, and they didn't quite do enough to win it by half-time. You mentioned the refereeing decisions. I presume we'll get to them at some point.
Yeah. Well, I was just thinking, is a big shot bigger if you're big? That was a completely stupid idea. But the big shot for Woltemade is a really big shot, isn't it? I think.
Well, I'd imagine it might be trickier for him because it would take longer because he's so tall. Little old Geordie women will be asking him to pick things off the high shelf for him.
Yeah. But also he'd have to ask little old Geordie women to bend down to get the things at the bottom. So absolutely right, it'd take forever. I don't know what you think, Dan. I think Barry might be, that's hat-trick chance, because his second finish was so good. I think the third chance isn't a sitter. I think he probably should score, but I don't think it's that straightforward. I don't know what you think.
Probably along the same lines as you. I think he's set himself a high bar with that second finish, because it is a lovely cushioned finish into the back of the net. And then the form he's on at that point in the game, you expect him to put away that big chance. And really the game swung on that, didn't it? It was a monumental opportunity. And if Newcastle go 3-0 up, I don't think Chelsea go and do what they did in the second half. But Newcastle left the door ajar, and Chelsea responded really, really well. It was an excellent game. I really, really enjoyed it. It was maybe a bit of recency bias from me, but nothing else is leaping out at me. That my favourite game I've watched so far this season. At the end of the game, it was just end to end, and you really thought that someone was going to nick it and someone was going to win it. Evidently, nobody did, and it ended 2-2. But I just thought it was a fantastic, fast tempo game that I really enjoyed. And Anthony Gordon, I know he went off. How he's not picked up the man of the match in that game, because he was like a rabid dog, particularly in the first half, just chasing after everything. He was a man possessed.
Well, maybe he could have been a bit stronger when Trevor Chalobah just shielded the ball out of play for that
How is that not a penalty? How is that not a penalty?
I honestly, so I mean, let's get to it. Eddie Howe says anywhere on the pitch it's a free kick. I'd say anywhere else on earth that is a free kick. The Premier League match centre right next, the referee's call of no penalty to Newcastle was checked and confirmed by VAR, with the contact from Chalobah on Gordon deemed to be side to side in a shielding action and the ball within playing distance. I mean, Seb, you wouldn't want Trevor Chalobah to shield a flock of baby ducklings across the road, would you? Like it's so blatant. Is it too blatant a foul?
Maybe you would want him to if he's blocking the car.
Well, that's true. If he's blocking the car, but it's too. Is it too obvious a foul? Like it's so obvious.
From a VAR point of view, from the referee's point of view, when I first saw it, and I was actually at Stockley Park when it happened, and it's funny when these contentious moments happen because the building swells because everybody in the building knows that the refs are in the building. So there's this these noises, these groans, but obviously you're not allowed to go into that room and interfere. Obviously,
you should have done, Seb. I think that warranted.
Surely there should be a button for one of the ex-pros once a week to press the button and go, "You've never played the game," and just run in and change the decision.
Well, I was actually watching the game with Don Hutchison. And he saw, when we first saw it, we did that, ooh, at first. But then the referee, we thought, maybe, and then you see the replay. And the idea that he's shielding the ball is quite unbelievable. I think I'm trying to put myself in the position of the VAR on why, because I'm trying to do this so hard. Why are they not telling the referee to refer and look at their screen for that decision? And the only thing I can think, there must be, when they look at the laws of the game, and he does this fit into this bracket of shielding the ball? Because we see players do this all the time, shepherd the ball towards, out for a goal kick. So where's the line?
That ain't shepherding. That ain't shepherding.
He didn't
You're
have
killing
the
those
ball.
sheep, aren't you?
Anthony Gordon had the ball.
That's a good point, Barry. Yeah. Anyway, I think we're all agreed. On the Reece James.
I don't think we've dug deep enough into why Seb was at Stockley Park watching this game with Don Hutchison.
Of course, conspiracy theories. Why was I there?
Is this regular Saturday behaviour for you?
I mean, there's a really boring answer to this, isn't there?
Yes,
which is where Premier League productions are. I presume.
Okay.
Yeah, it's not just, you don't just get a day out like a viewing gallery at court where you can watch. I don't know.
Watch the Watchmen.
Sam Barrett making VAR decisions or whoever it was. Can we talk about Reece James?
The people with the surname Hutchinson as well. Barrett.
That's
People are allowed in.
It's a Hutchinson only VAR watch along.
No, let me just correct everybody here. I'm Hutchinson and he's Hutchison. He doesn't
I
have that
knew
middle
that,
end.
Seb.
And you see, this is why I get referred to as Hutchison sometimes. And I think he told me the story that even the kit man, I think it was when he was at Everton, they printed it as Hutchinson, and he just went with it for the season. Now I need somebody to call that out if that's true. But I would say is sometimes if your name is spelt right, you just think, I'll just go with it as long as I'm scoring the goals. I just wanted to say when Dan said it was game of the season, I mean we've just had the week with 4-4, Man United, Bournemouth. I think it's true. Brave.
Yeah.
I don't look at that as being good football. I looked at this one as being good football. I look at that the Bournemouth one, chaotic football. This was
make
more
a good
pure.
Point. That was silly and this was
final,
breathless. This was exhausting, wasn't it? It really was. The game finished and you were tired on your sofa. Lawrence says, just checking if Barry's put his name down for football editor Marcus Christensen's corner office after the latter's firing for excluding Reece James from the top 100 best footballers in the world. It wasn't all Marcus's fault, of course. A lot of us had a vote. It's a brilliant free kick from Reece James. He also makes that brilliant tackle at the end, which some people thought was a foul. But I wonder, Barry, if he's underrated because he sort of does these, he can do spectacular things, but not in a very spectacular way.
Well, I mean, that was an undeniably spectacular free kick. How could he have made it more? I don't know. He doesn't celebrate enough, or he doesn't...
Does he thrill you? Like, as a footballer, like, he's clearly brilliant, but are you thrilled?
No, I'm not.
No. Okay.
And I don't know why, so it's a good question, I suppose, because I think maybe it's something to do with the fact that he's seems to be injured an awful lot, so he flits in and on and off my radar. And when he is playing, you just expect him to be good. I think I raised an eyebrow recently. I was going, "Ooh, this is interesting." When he gave a brilliant performance playing in the heart of Chelsea's midfield, which I don't think I'd seen him
Arsenal,
do that
I think,
before.
was it?
Was it? I can't remember. That's how impressive it was. Look, if it happened before the last tranche of games, it's gone out of my head. My memory banks are only so big.
Hey, you're full up. You need to get some more disk space. Pay a bit more for the cloud, Barry.
I need to plug in my external hard drive and flick through it. Yeah, it is a good question. I mean, he is an undeniably excellent footballer. I don't know why. I think I'm just used to him. He's always good. He never seems to have a dip in form. So he's either playing really well or he's injured. There's no kind of middle ground. I don't know. I'd have to think about it.
Yeah, and I suppose maybe it's a legacy of being a right back to begin with. And now he's sort of a bit more all action. And so you sort of categorise someone as a right back. I don't know, but it's a brilliant free kick. I wonder, Dan, I think that touch from João Pedro is so brilliant. Like if he dragged it out of the sky with his instep, everyone's, it's slow motion memes. But because it's sort of on the head, perhaps visually it doesn't look as good. But to control a long kick from a goalkeeper and basically put a defender on his arse while he's doing it is incredible.
Yeah, Robert Sanchez will get the assist for that, but I would say that João Pedro has got the assist and the goal by the way that he's took that. He's put himself through on goal with that touch. It's a majestic piece of play, and he's not exactly been thriving in front of goal. You wouldn't expect him to be full of confidence. Chelsea have been a bit bitty themselves recently as well, but the way he's put himself through is absolutely brilliant. It's an unbelievable touch and a great bit of skill.
And then said we had Harvey Barnes. I was waiting for the net to burst when he smacked that volley, and then he's through and Reece James pulls him back, but didn't pull him back enough for it to be a free kick.
Yeah, you mentioned about Woltemade's miss, but I actually think when the game was at 2-2, Newcastle had a fair few chances to win that. I think Elanga, who seems to be short of that confidence to try and go past a player or to force the issue, and I feel like the Newcastle fans are getting on his back a bit about this. I think they've noticed this in his game. And then Harvey Barnes, he had a couple of opportunities to win the game, and I suppose that feeds back into what Dan's saying about that match, was that towards the end, he did feel that any side could have won it, really. But Newcastle will come away from that burning a bit more than Chelsea because I think they need a win, and they've been bitten so hard this season at home against other big sides that they felt maybe this the one where we're going to beat one of these teams and then kick on. But it wasn't the case, and I think it probably sums up both teams' season at the moment.
Newcastle have dropped 13 points from winning positions now. They're really struggling to get the season going. I think if we were singling out Reece James for praise, we should probably also praise Lewis Miley, who played at right back for Newcastle in this game and was brilliant. And he's still just a child, basically.
The Reece James debate, I think what it is he just does most facets of the game quite well. And it's a bit like the Philip Lahm, Joshua Kimmich type player, where they just, what's their weakness? They don't really have one. But then what's their strength? You can't say. That's probably why. That's why they can play in multiple positions. They're just that kind of player, aren't they?
Yeah, you don't pay to see Josh Kimmich, but maybe you. No. I mean, you do actually, literally.
Yeah, you do. Literally, do. Yeah.
Figuratively.
I don't literally, but yeah.
No, of course not. Spurs 1, Liverpool 2. Aiden says, "What's ruining your life more, watching Spurs or watching England play cricket?" Moonlight Hanger. Were Romero and Simmons a little bit too keen to get Christmas off through suspension? And Neil says, "Are Spurs trolling their own players with those ads on the pitch side hoarding saying it's classic Tottenham?" You were commentating on this one, Seb. I mean, this was really, for a neutral, I imagine, quite a lot of fun. Odd, and at the end of it, Tottenham lose another game and Liverpool don't look very good at all but still win.
Yeah, it's a game that kept coming up with little surprising moments, but unsurprising in the grand scheme of these two clubs at the moment. And it's just, we always talk about sad manager cutaways. I feel really sad when I see Thomas Frank on the sides after something's gone wrong, because you feel like he's the sort of person who gets into his mindset, I will not be brought down by anything in the game. He must be watching these things go.
I mean, taking the Spurs job was a mistake if that's what he wanted.
Well, we don't want to get into that. For me, Romero's the story of the game because it's so many different points in the match. I don't feel he ever plays the game with a general sense of how is the game going, what's the game state, what would be best for my team. I'm the captain. I remember early on in the game, he swore at the ref a couple of times. And I did point out that wearing that captain's armband gives you some license with the referee to communicate with them. But I thought, not this much license. And at all times, the referee's probably thinking, just give me one reason to get you off this pitch. One more reason, just one more. And he did give it in the second half. A chaotic game in many respects. I think what Alexander Isak, I mean, to be on the bench, then come on, then be injured potentially for a while in such a short space of time, to happen so quickly. Again, that feels like that sums up his time at Liverpool so far. Xavi Simons, you think, right, he's on to something now, he's into form, and then that challenge, and obviously you're going to go into these things in detail. But overall, just Romero for me was the story of the match. We make jokes about it, but there has to be a serious question asked. What is the purpose of having that attitude on the pitch? I think maybe if everybody else in the team buys into that, then maybe you can get away with it because you get a yellow and then another player gets a yellow and you mix it up. But the rest of the Spurs team just doesn't feel like they're in that mode with him. I mean, Bentancur gives it a go every now and again, but I just don't think that anybody else buys into it. So why isn't anybody saying to him, just calm down, it's okay?
Yeah. I think you're right. I mean, I think if everyone else buys into it, you might have no players on the pitch. It felt like a game where you were like, this guy is definitely going to get sent off. I called him a donut the other day, and in a sort of loving way. Like, he clearly brings something to that team. He brings something to Argentina, right? That they love him. I don't think Spurs have lots of natural leaders. So, like, I'd love him to go to Atleti because then I wouldn't have to be stressed when I was watching him. But also, that's his spiritual home. But I think Tottenham don't have any leaders. To lose him would be, even though he is a bit odd as a leader. I don't know what you think, Dan. I thought both teams were not great, but Spurs were slightly better than Liverpool until Xavi Simons went through Van Dijk.
Yeah, it's a bizarre challenge at the state of the game as well, because like, he was referenced on Match of the Day. I think Joe Hart said it, that it's his international teammate. He's not deliberately going out to do something to Van Dijk, but it's a strange movement and a strange motion towards him. And it's a red card. It was an odd game. I watched Match of the Day back last night, and the first highlight from the game was the sending off. Half an hour in, there was nothing before that. But when you're watching it live, I didn't feel like it was a poor game up until that point. But bizarrely, there was nothing to pull out of note before then to put in the highlights package. I thought Spurs did quite well with 10 men. If I was Thomas Frank, he's a positive guy anyway, isn't he? You could find maybe some encouragement from the way Spurs played and the way they pulled together. But at the end, it's just a complete lack of discipline all round. Bentancur's made an awful challenge in that game as well. Horrible. Even Richarlison, when he scores, he's looking for a straightener with anyone he can find when he's put the ball in the back of the net, isn't he? He was a bit Romero like when he scored that goal. So Spurs conceivably could have lost even more players in that game, and they're just an odd team. And I feel a bit sorry for Thomas Frank, because I think maybe at the start of the season when they started okay, people thought they'd just be okay, be top six, have a decent cut run maybe, and be a little bit more stable. But it is looking more and more like the kind of Postecoglou era, isn't it? Which points to me that there's just wider problems at the club than the manager.
Yeah, in a way, Barry, I think that the Simons red card might help Frank, because the team fought for him, even if they took it a bit too far. It looked like the fans were a bit like, hey, look, we really gave it a go. It was kind of valiant defeat, which is better than sort of pathetic defeat, isn't it?
With regard to what Dan said about Simons not setting out to injure his international teammate and captain, is that the Netherlands dressing room is famously fractious. So there's every chance he was setting out to do him a mischief. I think Frank gets a pass for this one. And in a way, like you say, Max, the Simons red card may have helped him, because the reason no highlights were plucked out of this is because the Simons red card was the first thing of interest that happened in the game after, 34 or 5 minutes, because both teams were being incredibly cautious, both taking eons over goal kicks, and, that thing where the goalkeeper split the two centre halves and they fanny around for ages trying to... Emi Martinez is a master of it, actually, trying to draw in opposition players, but the opposition players weren't biting. So that's why there were very few first half highlights. And I think Spurs fans, they want results for sure, but they also want to see good football. And what they were being served up until Simmons, and to a point after Simmons got sent off, was not good football. But at least when they were playing with 10 men, they've an excuse not to play particularly good football. But I really enjoy this. And Liverpool's difficulty in closing out games is quite interesting. You know, last season's Liverpool, they go 2-0 up. They do not lose. They either win 2-0 or they win by more. This season's Liverpool, I mean, I think they were on the ropes there towards the end.
Yeah, I wonder, Seb, just on the decisions, I, as a Tottenham fan, felt completely aggrieved about all of them, but also thought perhaps all of them were correct, apart from maybe the Ekitike goal. Like, he does have two hands on Romero. And Thomas Frank said, look, Romero gets booked for dissent because he's annoyed that he's been pushed and it's not given. And I think that might be a free kick. I don't know what you think.
Yeah, we see these things so often, don't we? I wonder, again, this goes down to the line of, when the VAR looks at this, how much, because they've basically given themselves this high bar situation. Howard Webb said it at the start of the season.
The high Trevor Chalobah, as it is.
Trevor Chalobah, brilliant. Because they've set that, they have to feel, is there any debate about this? If there's debate, then we'll stick with the on-field decision. That's the tone that they were set for the season. So this maybe falls into that, I guess, because there'll be some people saying Romero should be stronger, he should get up earlier. Ekitike's got the leap on him. But yeah, that's the thing. I see both sides, and I don't see it as much as a big point to talk about as the Chalobah one, I have to say. And in the game, it's a strange one. I don't think that's something you pick out either, because as Barry said, once the game's there for Liverpool to win in any case, and the fact that was the goal that took it to win it, yeah, we could talk about that. You might not talk about that, but I don't know. I don't think it's the standout moment of the whole.
Yeah, just one more thing, just one more bit, Dan, before we move on, which is quite a lot of Liverpool fans, I presume Liverpool fans, got in touch to say, look, that Van der Ven challenge on Isak is dangerous. And because there's a goal, quite often if a player takes a shot, then what happens afterwards isn't counted. I've watched it a lot of times, and I don't know if that is because of the injury that you look at the challenge again, because he's on the ground and his leg does get caught under his leg. And I think it's unfortunate, but maybe I'm slightly biased. I don't know what you think.
It's one of them, isn't it? If Romero's done it, you might be sat here today saying, well, it's a dangerous tackle because it's Van der Ven.
I don't think Romero's on the ground if he's doing it. You know, I think he's hip height, isn't he?
Yeah. I think it's an unfortunate accident, isn't it? And it's going to cause a long-term injury for Isak. It's great for him to get the goal, but then his whole season is just upended and ruined as the ball hits the back of the net. I think it's just unfortunate circumstances, the way Isak's struck the ball, the way they've collided. I don't think, again, there's any malice in it for me.
Isak's injury, I don't know whether this has ever happened before or not, but Isak came off for Conor Bradley. So then when Isak went off, Jeremy Frimpong came on for him. And then Frimpong lost his head when he didn't quite get elbowed deliberately by Richarlison. So he was replaced by Federico Chiesa. So you basically sub replaces sub, which I don't know if that has ever happened before in a game of football. Interesting
you bring that up, Barry, and certainly without any pause in the edit to find out this information. December 2024, if memory serves me correctly, if you all remember the game between Shrewsbury and Northampton, Akin Odemeo was replaced by Liam McCarron in the 58th minute. Odemeo, just very disappointed to be hooked that early. McCarron got injured, was replaced by Jack Baldwin in the 82nd minute. Baldwin got injured and was replaced by Jordan Willis in the 90th minute. So I remember that. I don't remember the score, I'm afraid. But there you go. It has happened before. And that'll do for part one. Part two will begin at Villa Park. Welcome to part two of the Guardian Football Weekly. So Villa 2, Manchester United 1. Some very good bants from the Aston Villa official account saying that United fan could have had 2 haircuts. 10 straight wins, Dan. How was it?
Yeah, I was going to say brilliant. The game wasn't fantastic from a Villa perspective. It wasn't the best showing that we've put on across that 10-game winning run, but quite importantly, at the moment, this Villa team seems to be able to win in a variety of ways. They seem to just score great goal after great goal as well. That first goal from Morgan Rogers is an unbelievable strike, and we just keep getting results, 7 in a row in the Premier League now, which I think is probably more impressive than the 10 overall, given some of them were in the Europa League. 7 games in a row to win in the Premier League is a difficult thing to do. Obviously, you're a fountain of knowledge this morning, Max. I don't know whether you know how many teams have won 7 games in a row off the top of your head, but in the Premier League terms, it's a difficult thing to do when you look at the fixtures that Villa have had as well in that time. Just flying at the moment and keeping the pace with Manchester City and Arsenal, which ultimately I think isn't what Villa fans are bothered about, but having that little gap now between 3rd and 4th is unbelievable at this stage of the season. Next 2 games are Chelsea away and Arsenal away. Knowing that whatever happens in those 2 games will still be 3rd going into 2026 is just an incredible achievement from a brilliant squad and an unbelievable manager. The turnaround from the start of the season when we couldn't hit a barn door is unbelievable.
And that's the thing. You've just been hitting the barn door. Again, more brilliant goals. I don't know what the XG on either of them is. The first one, as you say, it reminds me a bit of, I think, Harry Kane in a North London derby. Scored one of those goals where he was out wide and he cut in. You're like, it's one of those, he's got no right to score from there. And one of those where, the player just goes, I'm going to do this all myself. And he's such a brilliant player, Rodgers. And obviously, I don't watch enough of Real Madrid to know who is a better footballer right now. That doesn't mean who's the better footballer, who's the generational talent. But right now, Rodgers is playing so brilliantly. Yeah,
and look, Tuchel was picking him when he wasn't playing brilliantly. He had a difficult start to the season. It was a bit over-egged what happened at Villa Park, but there was a game in Europe, I think it was, at Villa Park, where he just couldn't pass to a Villa player. He just couldn't do it. And eventually, in like the 80th minute, he completed a pass and there was ironic cheers. But he's recovered really, really well from that. He's got a brilliant mentality, Morgan Rogers. He's only been playing Premier League football for just under 2 years, so it's not like he's been playing Premier League football all his life. He was a bit around the houses in the first stage of his career, spending times at various clubs on loan. But he's found a home and he's found a manager that has just eked out the best of him. Unai Emery has picked the best role for him in terms of, I think a lot of maybe managers may have used him as a stereotypical wide player. He usually plays as a number 10 for Villa. He's playing from the left yesterday, but essentially he's still a number 10 in Villa's system. This might be a bit hyperbolic, but the way he's lashing the ball in from range at the moment, he reminds me of when Gareth Bale was having that kind of phase where he was just scoring worldie after worldie every week. If he wasn't scoring, he was getting assists. They've got a similar frame, haven't they? They play the game in a similar way, albeit Morgan Rogers is right-footed and Bale was left-footed, of course. But he is just a top-level player at the moment and one of the most dangerous attacking players in the Premier League, if not the most dangerous.
Seb, what did you make of this game?
Yeah, I think I tallied it up at about 14 shots from outside the box from both teams. And Manchester United actually had more than Villa long-range efforts. It struck me as a game where, for Aston Villa, they're on this amazing run, and therefore when they face a side like Manchester United, when they've had a bad record against them, there's that tension, isn't there? That's like we're a better team than this team, but can we get over? And I think it wasn't so free flowing, and it wasn't such a satisfying win in that way that it was the week before. I'm sure Dan will attest to that. It was probably a bit more tense. It's like, just blow the whistle, let's get this game done and move on to the next one. And that is probably the mentality of a team who are playing well and maybe think, could we be involved in this title race here? Because they are at the moment, obviously, because the points say so. But to stay in it, you have to have a lot of those tight wins, those games where you know you're better than the other team, you don't perform and you get through. Actually, Manchester United have fallen to the point, we keep saying where they are, where any nice moment in the game they get praised for, and there's that belief that, actually attacking quite well here. They look quite good. Well, of course, they should look good because they spent a lot of money in attacking areas and they've got players who are some of the best Premier League players last season. So that should be where they are. And then to lose Bruno Fernandes, who never gets injured, and the way he went off was the most protracted time it takes for an injured player to leave the field. It's almost, I refuse to believe that I'm injured. I refuse to believe that I may be missing matches, and I'm also the man on the pitch who's there to drive this side through. Even when Rodgers scored, they have to cut to close-ups of players, and they cut to him. He's almost like, just wanted to get to half time so I can rest this leg, and he's gone and scored that goal. So thanks to Matty Cash as well. And I actually caught, weird thing about this game, I watched the first 20 minutes and then I went to watch Panto at the local theatre with the family.
Right.
And when I came back...
What was on?
It was Rapunzel.
Okay.
So, yeah, my daughter was giving me a running commentary through it, sort of saying, that didn't happen in the Disney film. I said, well, there was a story before that. And anyway, and I came back and watched the second half, as in I recorded it because I'm such a pro. I went to watch the second half without knowing the score. So,
Lovely. Fun
enough, I did see something flash up from Barry, and I wondered, is this going to be a dig at Dan about the result, or is this going to be a confirmation that they've done well? So I avoided everything until I watched the second half. And I did want to shout to Cash, he's behind you when Cunha slipped in to score. But I refused. That was a funny little error in the game. But yeah, I just wanted to give you a little insight into my professionalism there.
Yeah. I like the fact that you're annoyed that your daughter is commentating on the Panto, when a lot of people are mainly annoyed that you're commentating on the football. Look, Bruno Fernandes, that injury thing is fascinating. I didn't realise this. He's missed 2 games through injury and 1 through illness since he got to United, Barry. And we've talked about how key he is to this side, so it will be really interesting to see how they get on without him.
Yeah, and the thing is, his reluctance to come off may have exacerbated the injury, so he might be out for longer than he should be. Because of his reluctance. Interestingly, when he pulled up, just the whole game stopped. The ball didn't go out of play. He just kind of put his arms out. Oh, my hammy's gone. And everyone just stopped as if, that can't be right. His hammy doesn't go. And then John McGinn just sort of poked the ball out over the touchline when he could have gone on an attack or something. He'll be a big loss to United. I mean, I think... I kind of in Seb's camp in terms of Manchester United have to do very little of note now to be praised incredibly condescendingly. That's the level they're at the moment. I didn't think they were all that good yesterday. Amorim said they were the better team. Wayne Rooney was praising them to the high heavens on Match of the Day last night. I mean, what he said wasn't without merit, but it just seems like they're being praised for doing the basics now.
Apart from Roy Keane, who was just they're terrible off the ball, they're getting punished and they should get punished. But maybe that, for Roy Keane, is praise in a sense, isn't it? Right, lots of games to get through, not a huge amount of time. Leeds 4, Palace 1. Johnny says, how do you think Leeds will fare in next year's Champions League? It is great, Dan, to see Leeds doing so well, and it's great to see Dominic Calvert-Lewin scoring goals.
Yeah, he's 6 in 5. He scored now, Dominic Calvert-Lewin, a real renaissance. Maybe a signing that made sense, but Leeds fans, when he came in, were possibly a little bit underwhelmed. His recent record wasn't brilliant, but when he's at it, we've seen it in spells for Everton, he's a really dangerous player and a hard player to defend against. I think Daniel Farke deserves a huge amount of credit because I think they lost to Villa and it was basically you've got to do something in the next 2 games, and the next 2 games were Chelsea at home and Liverpool at home, and he's kind of rode that storm out, and suddenly Ellen Road looks like a really difficult place to go and a place where teams are going to struggle to pick up points, and if Leeds are to stay up, a lot of it's going to come down to their Ellen Road form. But he was walking a tightrope, Daniel Farke, and I think he's managed that really well, and now it feels like the whole club is back behind him. The fan base is back behind him as well. I haven't got the stats in front of me, but his home record is up there. The 2 and a bit seasons he's been there, their home record is very, very strong, and if Leeds can channel that and almost keep the feel good that they've got at the moment, they'll give themselves a hell of a chance of staying up, and Calvert-Lewin now will be what Danny Welbeck was 3 weeks ago, where people are saying, "Oh, could he be the backup to Harry Kane at the World Cup?"
I mean, David Moyes and Everton fans must be like, let this guy go. They've got Beto and Barry, a good centre forward behind their attacking line when they're all fit and there, would be something else. But yeah, he became the only 4th Leeds player to score in 5 consecutive Premier League games, joining Viduka twice, Jimmy Floyd Hasselbank and Rod Wallace. It's interesting from a Palace point of view, Baz, that they just, after they play on a Thursday, they just can't do it. They made 11 changes on Thursday, but they failed to win a league game directly after a Conference League fixture in 7 of 8 attempts this season. And Glasner was furious, wasn't it? Because all the goals were from set pieces.
Yeah, when I saw this result, I thought, well, it's Palace's second game in 3 days, so it's no big shock that they got beaten. And then I saw that actually none of these starters played on or started on Thursday, so it's not really an excuse. And the goals they conceded, 2 from long throws, 1 from a corner, and a penalty, was it? So
no, Stack scored a free kick. No.
Sorry, yeah. The goals they conceded, 2 from long throws, 1 with Chris Richards providing the assist for Calvert-Lewin, 1 from a corner, 1 from a free kick. Not good enough. Glasner was clearly furious with his players, and he had every right to be. But look, I think Palace are entitled to a bad day. So, it happens.
Let's go to the top of the league then. Arsenal 1-1 at Everton. The goal that decides it, Seb, is, I'm a handball denier, but Jake O'Brien, it's as Baz said yesterday, it's a volleyball spike. Like, he even claps to make sure everyone would know what's happening, just to draw attention to it. It's very hard to know what a player is thinking because you do have to use your arms to jump. I understand that, but you don't have to put your arms straight up in the air.
I think sometimes it's just the idea of when you're a footballer, you're on the pitch. If the ball's near you, you feel like, I have to touch it. And if you can't reach it and you're up there, think, I've got to
something you've got to iron out of your game. You've got to iron that out of your game early, I think.
That's why I didn't make it. No, there's lots of reasons. I think in this, what was weird about this one, not many players appealed it. And that was strange. Obviously, the referee didn't notice it. And only Calafiori sort of belatedly went, okay, yeah, it might have handled that. So it wasn't a convincing appeal. They weren't rushing round. That was interesting. But I think in a weird way, it was quite a forgettable. It summed up the whole match, really. It was quite forgettable. It always felt like a game that was going to be decided by a set piece, because you thought, Everton, with so many players missing, are they going to be able to trouble Arsenal too much? But at the same time, because Arsenal are missing defenders, or their defensive structure's been affected, and they haven't actually played that well, haven't dominated a game really since they beat Bayern Munich. They've sort of got through games along the way. Obviously lost to Villa, drew the Chelsea game, and then just about beat Wolves, and then obviously just about beat Everton. It felt like a game that was always going to be decided by one moment really, and it was always going to threaten to be a bit of a stinker. I don't think Arsenal will care about that in terms of picking up the 3 points, but I think there will be a general concern that every game is feeling a bit more of a struggle for them than it is for City. And the next weekend, to go to Forest, and then Arsenal play Brighton at home. And interestingly, those fixtures then get flipped a few weeks after that. And when you're looking at it, you think, well, maybe Arsenal going to Forest, that could be a tricky one for them. But the way City are playing right now, you don't feel the same. And you just wonder, I heard Gary Neville say he reckons around March Arsenal will have pulled away. I'm not so sure. I think it might be the opposite, where Arsenal might be trying to play catch-up then, and we'll find out how fit City are, because they did play in the Club World Cup. They are strangely reliant on some big players that are making the difference at the moment. Can they do it for a whole season? Let's see.
Yeah, just before we get on to City, Arsenal did hit the woodwork a couple of times, didn't they? But there was, Dan, this moment. It's not quite Chalobah on Gordon, but William Saliba just boots Tierney Barry. We've seen this penalty given so many times on VAR. It's a VAR penalty. Back in the day, you wouldn't see these given. But now you see a challenge like that and you think that's going to be a penalty.
Yeah, in the modern day, it's one that usually gets given. I will say it's the type of penalty I hate for some reason. I don't know why, but that penalty always really annoys me. Maybe it's the way players always exaggerate how they go down from that kind of challenge. I think Everton have probably got a right to be aggrieved, just because I think 9 times out of 10 it probably gets given, and you may see a similar incident next week in the Premier League, and it probably does get given as a penalty. I think it's the inconsistency of those type of decisions.
Oliver says, never heard it mentioned on the pod or anywhere outside Liverpool and Everton fan circles. High time the boring and predictable poverty chanting of visiting fans of the majority of clubs when at both Everton or Liverpool games is called out. From Andy Hunter's match report, there was nothing to report from a tedious opening aside from the pathetic and frequent poverty chanting by the Arsenal away support. Fair play to the Everton employee who decided to display an advertisement for fans supporting food banks on the giant stadium screens in response. I think we have talked about tragedy chanting before, Barry, and this is adjacent to that, I guess. And it's hard to know what else to say apart from it's really dumb. I've written about this because when I was about 15 or 16 at Cambridge, when Northern teams would come, behind the North Terrace, there was a song, sign on with a pen in your hand and you'll never get a job. And I would just sing along because I was an idiot. And actually, such is my, man of the people upbringing, I didn't even know what signing on was. And I look back and think, that's a fucking stupid thing to say, but I was 16. So I tend to judge 40-year-olds singing this stuff in a very different way to teenagers singing this stuff. But it's pretty depressing.
I won't lie. Years ago, I used to think the Feed the Scousers chant was funny, just because of the Feed the World song. I probably didn't realise poverty was such a big issue in Liverpool and many other cities, because I didn't grow up in poverty. As you get older, you realise it's not actually that funny at all. And there's no need for it. But I think, look, there are some people who think, it shouldn't be sung. And there are other people who insist it's just banter, and to complain about it is snowflakey, woke behaviour. And I don't think you're going to change those people's minds. But then my mind was changed, so maybe you can. I don't.
Yeah. Yeah, it is pretty depressing.
Poverty is everywhere, isn't it?
It's not exclusively a Merseyside thing.
I walk past homeless people on my way into Villa Park every single week. It's to kind of eliminate it to being in one area as well is just absolutely ridiculous, because the whole country is struggling and has poverty. The state of the country now is horrible, and some of the lives that people have to lead. So in 2025, just about to go into 2026, for people to think it's funny, I can't understand that mentality at all.
I mean, the strange thing is, back when that chant originated, I mean, the price of football tickets at the time would have made it affordable even for people who were struggling for work. I mean, now, if you're going to a Premier League game, there's a strong chance you're nowhere near being in poverty for a start. And that maybe the irony of the chant is lost now completely, because it's people who have got that disposable income who are singing this song, which I think it makes it burn more than it ever did.
Yeah, I think you're right. On a happier note, Jack Grealish and Everton do this really well. He went to the school of a little kid who's really struggled, lost his dad, and his mum is not very well. And he has a way about him which is so charming and warm and beautiful, and he can because a lot of players go and do this thing and can understand it can be quite awkward, but he can just go into a school class and basically just fit in seamlessly, and he's just a lovely, and he brought the kid as a mascot to the game, and just credit to Jack Grealish for being a nice person. You mentioned City, Seb, they won 3-0 against West Ham. I mean, I think this felt predictable, didn't it? I mean, of all the games to go, they won 3-0. If anyone can add some amazing 1 minute of podcast to this, Seb, then be my guest.
I watched the game because I was in Stockley Park HQ, so I could see the 3 o'clock. I think this game, with all the, I talk about the 3 o'clock thing a lot. The thing with Manchester City is it was the most 3 o'clock games you could ever ask for on Saturday, by the way. Absolutely incredible. And for most of the first, I think I need to check when the first goal from the other 3 games was scored, but it was a long time into those 3 o'clocks. And Manchester City, when they're playing aside from the bottom half of the table, that game is 99% of the time on at 3 o'clock on a Saturday, because people know the way it's going to go. Interestingly, though, I think there's probably, when you look at City's season as a whole, Donnarumma, when he arrived at the club, when that signing made really late on in the window, I remember thinking, I saw that and thought, this is going to be a huge signing this season for City. Because Trafford, in the first few games, there was enough there to think, there's going to be games where he's going to make the odd error, he's going to try and fit in, there's going to be time they're going to drop a lot of points. In this game, West Ham seemed to arrive with the idea of we're not getting anything out of this. When City scored in the second half, the start of the second half, there was a 10-minute period where West Ham racked up quite a few chances, and Donnarumma was just there in the goal. There was no way past him. And I think with a Haaland-Donnarumma situation, those two at either end, nobody has that. Nobody in the Premier League has that in their armoury. And it just means that City don't have to play well for all of the game. I mean, we're used to them being under Pep playing well for most of the game. They don't have to. They can have spells where they're out of the game. And that's probably the thing that keeps them fitter for longer in the season. He can make changes at times because the game feels won. And he has these two phenoms at either end of the pitch to make the difference. And that was the thing in the game. I don't think Haaland, as we always say, barely touched the ball, wasn't really involved in the game. But the chances fell his way in comical circumstances, particularly the second one where West Ham
on a plate,
players trying to clear the ball, hits another player. Just everything about the West Ham performance you just felt for them, because Bowen's running his legs off but he can't get the ball. Scarles has come in after timeout. They've lost both fullbacks to Afcon. It just felt that they weren't getting anything out of it. But City can be got at, but can you get past Donnarumma, and can you stop Haaland from scoring?
Peter says, do Wolves and West Ham cling to the hope? There's never been a Premier League season without a team beginning with W. There's never been, he did some more research, Peter, there's never been a top flight season without a team beginning with W since the start of the league in 1888, including Woolwich Arsenal. And we will do Wolves at the start of part 3. Welcome to part 3 of the Guardian Football Weekly. So Wolves 0, Brentford 2. Matt Doherty, if you read the words, it could sound like Maximus Meridius Decimus at the end of the game. Do we want to be remembered for fighting until the end of the season, or do we want to be remembered for being cowards? But Barry, he sounded like droopy. Like no one has ever sounded sadder than Matt Doherty did at the end of this. And it was bleak, this game for Wolves.
Yeah, I predicted this would be their first win of the season. Not even my amazing soothsaying powers could rustle up a win for them. They lost because, of course, they did. And even when they had a chance to get themselves back in the game, they won a penalty. Jørgen Strand Larsen's effort was pathetic. Made it easy for Kevin Kelleher to save. I think that Doherty post-match self-flagellation may have been directed at Mr. Jørgen Strand Larsen, among others. Now, the first thing to say about Doherty's very heartfelt cri de coeur is that, that you should be doing that kind of talking on the pitch. It's no good doing it in the tunnel afterwards. But he clearly feels very strongly about this. I think it was a message to teammates who may be eyeing up a January move away from this bin fire, or teammates who would just rather be dropped and not be associated with it and have other players who aren't getting a game come in. Imagine being in that Wolves squad and not getting picked. God almighty, what an indictment that is. Jørgen Strand Larsen, I don't want to single him out. Well, I am singling him out because he's been awful this season. The one thing I would say, I think he's been playing through pain, a lot of pain, and he's not completely fit. But he was being touted with a £60 million move to Newcastle during the summer. I mean, would you give $6 million for him at the moment in January? I don't know. Again, I think he's not fit and he's playing through pain, or he certainly was for the first few months of the season. But
surely they're all playing through pain at this point.
Yeah, sure.
Well, I meant physical pain rather than emotional pain.
I'd need to take out an enormous loan to buy Jørgen Strand Larsen for $6 million. And I'm not sure Mrs. Rushden would be delighted when I brought him in and said, we're in an incredible amount of debt, but we have this man, so maybe he can do some things.
Can he babysit?
Yeah.
I had this image of him pouring you a coffee or something and just missing the cup.
Yeah, possibly. So they have the worst record, thanks to the BBC for this, in any team in Europe's top 14 divisions. Only Paralimni, with 1 point in the 15th ranked league in Cyprus, have fewer. So yeah, poor old them. Well done, Keane Lewis Potter, and nod again to our listener who for a while thought Keane was just an adjective, like he was sort of in a war film from like gets shot in the first 10 minutes. Elsewhere, last two games, Bournemouth won, Burnley won. Late Armando Broja goal ends Burnley's 7-game losing streak. A real relief. Is it for Lauren Dan, who fell over? And, you just saw when he fell over and Semenyo scored, like the air just sort of like the stuffing fall out of all these Burnley players, just like, poof, they were like, oh, you're not serious.
Because if you're a Burnley player, as soon as he's fell, before that ball's even been hit, there's a mistake here. There's going to be a goal here. You just know what's going to happen. It's a great finish from Semenyo. To be fair, he's definitely got that in his locker. But in fairness, Burnley stayed in the game, didn't they? I mean, it might not make a huge lot of difference come the end of the season because I think they'll probably get relegated anyway. But good to show a little bit of resilience and get that late goal and come back into the game. And quite pleased for Broja because I think people don't realise how much he's struggled with injuries over the last few years. He got a really bad injury in that strange time when the World Cup was on, but yet team still took the rest of the players away. He got a really bad injury in a friendly against Villa. I remember watching that game. So his career's really stalled since then. So a decent header from him. He was the only one who seemed to be looking at the ball and wanted to attack the ball. So might not be a massive amount of difference for Burnley come the end of the season, but just kind of gets a point back on the board in a time when it feels like they've really been struggling.
Yeah, Bournemouth are winless in 8 now, and Semenyo, in some gossip columns, say that he's already agreed personal terms with Liverpool regarding a move in January. The only other game, Brighton 0, Sunderland 0. Tony Gale was on co-coms. I think it was Tony Gale, wondering if Ayari was trying to give someone in the crowd a ball for Christmas because he kept hitting it over in exactly the same place. Like he had so many times, he was just booting it like straight into row F. It was quite interesting. Anyway, we don't need to spend a lot of time on that game. Fulham Forest tonight. We'll cover that on tomorrow's pod. Wilfried Nancy watch. Big win for Celtic and Nancy. 2 late goals, 88th and 92nd minute against Aberdeen. By all accounts, they totally deserved the victory. And at the top of the table, Hearts beat Rangers 2-1. So are 6 points clear of Celtic. So interesting up there. It'd be great. I'd love it if Nancy came through and won the title now, given everything that's happened.
Hold on. I think the opposite. Yeah. My entire life, football conscious life, I haven't seen another Scottish team win that title. Bar Rangers and Celtic.
It's a good point.
And it seems...
No, you make a good point.
I want Hearts to win the league just to see what a happy Ewan Murray is like. Because I don't think I've ever seen... He'd find some way to be sad about Hearts winning the title.
Can I add to that? I actually watched the first half of this, because I've had that much interest. Every weekend I'm going, oh my God, Hearts. Oh my God, this is incredible. I think Shankland's goal, which was the second goal, was both a brilliant strike and Butland should have done better. So if you get a chance to see this goal, I'm telling you, you'll see it and go, how has that gone in? But yet you see the replay and he strikes it so well at the near post. So Butland should be, as they say, goalkeepers should cover their near post. And somehow it goes really hard and low on the ground and beats Jack Butland at the near post. You don't see it happen that often, I have to say. That side of the keeper, the space that he squeezed it through was quite something. Yeah, but every weekend I'll be keeping an eye on Hearts results. That's all I'm saying.
What did you make of Rangers' entirely orange kit? I know it may have been a nod to their...
It confused me at first.
But it looked like 10 goalkeepers. I didn't like it at all.
Not a fan of an orange kit. I have to say, the exception is probably Ivory Coast's because it's got...
But you need white shorts.
Beautifully. Yeah, I think so. Yeah, it just didn't work for me. And I got a bit confused when I first turned it on.
Max is so desperate to end this.
It's just like, what?
Let's
no. I don't mind. I don't mind podcasts going on forever. But apparently, the algorithm says there's a length you need them to be, and we're approaching the top end of it. If you are in the market for looking up goals, look up Morocco's second Ayoub El Kaabi scoring a brilliant overhead kick. I gave it a 9.2 on the Sinclair Spectrum in their 2-0 win over Comoros. They're the hosts of Afcon. They're the favourites as well. We are going to talk about it with Philippe tomorrow because before the tournament, head of CAF Patrick Motsepe decided that Afcon's going to be moving to every 4 years. I think without asking anybody what they thought. So
unlike a football governing body,
isn't it? But he's big mates with Gianni Infantino, so Philippe has things to say about that.